What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and oh boy is there a firestorm of self-created nonsense going on right now for all the wrong reasons. In the gigabrain move of Sony's higher-ups, they have just decided to anger the entirety of their PC gaming community when it comes to Helldivers 2. Beyond this, Helldivers CEO has spoken about this as well, and community managers are digging the grave ever deeper. And there's a Sony patent that will allegedly track your biometric data and ban people based on it. Yeah, we'll get there. But first, let's look at this article from that Park Place titled, Helldivers 2 players threaten to quit the game after developer announces mandated PlayStation Network account linking. So here I am, waking up, making a cup of coffee and opening up Twitter to see what lovely news is happening today, only to witness the nuclear wasteland forming around Helldivers, and yeah, it's not looking good, fellas. In case you missed it somehow, basically Sony has decided to shoot themselves in the foot on purpose here. Here's what they said officially, and I quote, "Attention Helldivers, due to technical issues at the launch of Helldivers 2, we allowed the linking requirements for Steam accounts to a PlayStation Network account to be temporarily optional. That grace period will now expire. See details below in this post. Account linking plays a critical role in protecting our players and upholding the values of safety and security provided on PlayStation and PlayStation Studios games. This is our main way to protect players from griefing and abuse by enabling the banning of players that engage in that type of behavior. It also allows those players that have been banned the right to appeal. As such, as of May 6th, all new Helldivers 2 players on Steam will be required to connect their Steam account to a PlayStation Network account. Current players on Steam will start to see the mandatory login from May 30th and will be required to have linked a Steam and PlayStation Network account by June 4th. We understand that while this may be an inconvenience to some of you, this step will help us to continue to build a community that you are all proud to be a part of. Many thanks for your continued support of Helldivers 2, end quote. So, this has, understandably, pissed off many, especially the PC gaming side of the equation, since many of these Steam users do not want to make a PlayStation account in order to play Helldivers on their preferred platform. This feature has been there since launch, however. During the mega release of Helldivers, it was, of course, optional at the time, and likely, many users just skipped it to get right into the game so that they could get to playing. But now, of course, that is no longer the case. It must be made mandatory going forward. So, why is this all happening? And this is extra weird for me because the PlayStation 5 is my preferred place to play video games myself, and this leaves me in a rather, well, weird predicament going forward. The most basic reason I could fathom as to why this exists is simply because Sony wants to boost their PlayStation member account numbers in order to inflate their reports when it comes to quarterly meetings. In case you don't know, Helldivers 2 has sold over 8 million copies so far. It's likely higher now since the last time we had an update, it was from mid-April or so. But anyways, there's clearly a lot of people playing the game right now. I also reported in my previous video that Helldivers 2 is currently the 7th highest grossing game from PlayStation Studios. And this was comparing the game against Sony's other franchises who've had years upon years of time to accumulate sales. So for Helldivers 2 to reach 7th place in 3 months and some change is insane when compared to the juggernaut it's being placed against. The game is doing really well is what I'm saying, but as I said in that report, the majority of Helldivers 2's success is due to the PC platform. Look, even though I play on PlayStation, you're not going to find me trying to mental gymnastics my way around any facts. I just say how it is on this channel, and the truth is that without the PC platform, Helldivers 2 wouldn't even crack the top 20 selling games of 2024. So clearly the majority of the player base that plays Helldivers right now is predominantly on PC, which I think is great. And it's a smart move on Sony's part to release future games on PC as well, like they're going to do in the near future with Final Fantasy XVI, for example. So clearly Helldivers 2 is not performing insanely well solely on the shoulders of PlayStation fans, and it's clearly because of the undying support of PC players that it's performing so well. And this is why it would be in Sony's best interest to do everything possible to not piss off their PC player base like this. Especially since, as many people have been saying on Twitter, that you didn't need a PlayStation account in order to play games like God of War or Spider-Man on PC, but now Helldivers has become mandatory, obviously. And likely, although not confirmed yet, I'm just speculating here, but I wouldn't be surprised if going forward, Sony makes it mandatory for every game they release on PC needing a PlayStation account as well. Of course, for me personally, who plays on PlayStation already, this problem is kind of non-existent because obviously I have a PSN myself already. But I totally get why PC players wouldn't want this, since out of any player base in gaming, PC is easily the ones who have to jump through the most hoops out of any other. Considering PC games have all sorts of requirements and walls between them and the player already on varying degrees. Some games support DRM, some games are exclusive to the Epic Games Store like Alan Wake 2, although you're not missing anything by not playing that, trust me. And then of course, if there's any player base that gets abused the most for literally no reason, it's PC players. Just look at the myriad of third-party releases in the last 2 years to see how many games released working like garbage on that platform while they ran fine on the consoles. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Wild Hearts, god I remember the whole Batman Arkham Knight controversy and how poorly that was optimized for PC at release too. So this is just another gate that's being placed between PC players and their games, so I totally understand why they don't want to do it. But the other big reason why is because by making this account, it then forces PC players to adhere to the policies of Sony PlayStation and their code of conduct. Which means if there was something PC players could do on their platform that is not allowed on PlayStation, obviously it would create friction or even cause banning to happen. I'm not even going to attempt to pretend that I understand how all the add-ons PC players might use to optimize their gaming experiences work. But if any mod or add-on they use outside that somehow enhances their playtime with Helldivers is not allowed within Sony's code of conduct, or some third-party software on your PC gets pinged by Sony's anti-cheat software, whatever. There's so many variables here is what I'm saying. That would just lead to another huge headache that clearly doesn't need to exist anyways, and that's the point here. However, one of the biggest reasons why this mandatory PlayStation account thing is a big no-no is because right now the PlayStation Network is currently only available in 69 countries. 69! Nice! But anyway, obviously, that means the network is not available in every country, so places like Egypt and others don't have access to PSN. But obviously, they have access to PC gaming because it's global, and if you play PC games without an account, especially if you're someone who likes to sail the high seas as a pirate, if you know what I mean. Anyway, the point here is that PSN is not available worldwide, so users who play Helldivers 2 via PC who don't have access to PSN are not only unable to do this because it's obviously a mandatory step now going forward, but if they do make a PSN account, it could technically flag their PC account as cheating or spam. The reason being is when it comes to PSN or Xbox Live, really any of them, you obviously need to register your account based on where you live. This isn't an issue if you live in Canada or America, for example, but like I said, PSN isn't available everywhere. So for the users who don't legally have access to PSN in their home countries will have to now make a PSN. But obviously, when they have to choose which country they're from, they can't choose their actual location because it isn't available. So if some PC Helldivers players who live outside of the sphere of Sony's PSN make an account and let's say they lie and set their location to America or Europe, once they go online, Sony using the PSN can obviously monitor and track which player is playing from where. And if their system pings them and goes, uh-oh, this player says they're in Europe, but they're actually somewhere not where PSN is available, that technically goes against their terms of service, and they could very well be banned from not only Helldivers, but the entire PSN and future games that get released on PC. Would that also affect their PC account? Maybe, I can't say 100%, but the point here is that this mandatory push would basically lock out thousands of players from enjoying Helldivers in their home country where they live. And again, it's not their fault they don't live somewhere where PSN is available. But it's also not fair to push this mandatory account creation when it obviously will negatively affect thousands of players out there who have no choice. So if you're a player in, let's say, Egypt, to keep it simple, you'd have to basically play Helldivers 2 with a VPN and trick Sony's PSN ping system into believing that you live somewhere else. So now Helldivers 2, if you live outside of those 69 countries, you basically have to pay extra to play Helldivers 2 online now going forward. So this is not very cash money of Sony at all and kind of dismantles the entire point of this mandatory account sign-in from the get-go. Because they're going to end up pushing away players or punishing them for things that are outside of their control. But like I said, the real reason why Sony is doing this is likely just to beef up their PlayStation Network numbers. Because like I said previously, the majority of Helldivers players are on PC, so of those 8 million plus copies sold, I mean that's a lot of potential PSN accounts being registered into their services. And would obviously make Sony's next quarterly earnings report look amazing if they told investors, hey, we just got like 6 or 7 million new PSN accounts from this one game. Our growth has exploded, and then investors get happy and they invest more and so on and so on. So I get why Sony would want to do this. I'm not defending them, of course, because I think it's clearly not going over well for them anyways. And I mean, it just keeps getting worse, because as I was writing this, even more has come out. So let's just keep it simple and go one thing at a time. Firstly, this article from thegamer.com titled Helldivers 2 is making PC players sign into PSN again, hit with negative reviews. So now Helldivers 2's reception on PC has been smashed with negative reviews like crazy. The game used to be very positive, but here's this tweet from Steam database where they show right here that around 65% of the more recent reviews left by players on Steam have gone from very positive to mixed, which is obviously not good at all. And actually, if we look deeper here, Steam database confirms that Helldivers 2 has received around 14,000 negative reviews since this news broke, which is, yeah, that's not good at all, fellas. Remember that reviews can only be left by people who actually own and purchase the game on Steam. So that's 14,000 players right there sticking a middle finger to Sony. If we take those numbers and multiply it by Helldivers 2's base release price, that's around $700,000 worth of players being upset with you, so that's not a small amount of money, fellas. That's kind of insane. And all over social media, I'm seeing people cancel their PSN and refund Helldivers 2, so this change is clearly not going over well whatsoever, but it keeps getting worse somehow. Like Cell in Dragon Ball Z, the situation keeps evolving into even deadlier forms. Twitter user Master of the TDS, who regularly scans many publishers and platforms for signs of dishonest engagement, has confirmed that Sony PlayStation has now resorted to botting their posts when it comes to Helldivers 2 in order to spread false positive feedback. This wouldn't even be the first time, since as the Master of the TDS has shown in the past, Sony has used bots prior to the release of Helldivers 2 already when it came to promoting their game. So this just keeps happening, it seems, but beyond the botting and all that, it just keeps getting worse somehow. So almost a month ago, we all found out that Helldivers 2's primary community manager is a woke woman, who attempted to smear her own game community and confirm that Helldivers 2 has always been woke, which didn't go over well at all. She has since been pretty silent when it comes to things because likely the higher-ups at Arrowhead told her to shut up and sit down, which is good of them to do because she was causing them damages. Anyways, now the other community manager, whose name is Spitzer, has decided to open their mouth again and cause more harm in the wake of this Sony account controversy. Don't harass this person, by the way, but here's what happened. One user on Helldivers' official Discord said this will kill Helldivers 2 on Steam, backpedal, or lose your player base. To which Helldivers community manager Spitzer replied by saying, I thought you were refunding and leaving. You never say these things to your consumer base, man. Who hired this person? How are they still employed at Arrowhead? Look, don't harass his community manager or anything, but why is it that all community managers seem to be cut from the same cloth across the industry these days? Your entire job is to foster a welcoming community that is accepting of all people, yet more often than not, we see these CMs go out of their way to attack the fan base instead. Never do this ever. I don't care what it is. Never attack your fan base. I wouldn't be surprised if the Helldivers CM actually wants this situation to escalate, because based on my previous videos about community managers, and the secret little groups they have where they coordinate with each other on what to push ideologically and all of that, these CMs want people like that user who said you'll lose the fan base to leave. They want players like that to be gone so that they can create a community that all thinks and acts the same. The users who actually question choices and stand up for themselves are obviously going to be labeled wrong thinkers, and they want to be replaced by right think users who agree with every moronic statement that's thrown their way by these CMs. There was even popular VTubers like Iron Mouse who said that they're dropping Helldivers 2, and by the way, Iron Mouse has over 2 million Twitch followers. So that's not a good look when someone with an insane reach like that just abandons your game like this either. This is getting bad, man. And oh great, the Helldivers CM spoke even further on Discord. Here's what they said. It's not like this is the first or even the 14th mainstream game to require a third-party account that takes a couple of minutes to create. But if it's a deal breaker to have to take 120 seconds out of your day to enter an email and password and then forget about it, change your Steam review and make your displeasure known on a platform where it matters. This is so bizarre to me. The CM of $1 billion corporation who owns the studio that they work for just told users to vote with their wallets in public for everyone to see. This is why community managers need to be extensively interviewed to ensure that they're not morons, because this is not a good look at all. They are kind of right, however, that this isn't the first or last time any game will require you to make an account, since for example, if you want to play Sea of Thieves on PlayStation, you need to sign up for a Microsoft account through that game in order to play it, because the game is obviously made by Microsoft Studios. And yet nobody batted an eye or even really covered that, but I think it's because this has become so normalized on console that it's just not being talked about enough. But I think the reason why, particularly here, it's not a good look is because obviously, as you know, there's an ever-growing feeling of censorship every day. You can't say certain keywords on platforms or you'll get silenced or banned. I mean, I called someone a dumbass on Twitter last week and the tweet I sent got flagged, and its visibility got reduced because I was apparently being mean, but in my defense, that person was and still is a dumbass. But the point is that censorship is everywhere, even on YouTube. If you haven't noticed, I don't swear much, and that's deliberate because of policies. I also gray out super bloody parts in gameplay because YouTube hates blood in videos. It's all really stupid in my opinion, but that's censorship for you. And as this whole Helldivers debacle proves, one of the main reasons Sony is doing this is to cut down on online abuse and toxicity within their games. And I would wager the majority of the Helldivers fanbase is totally fine and not toxic at all. In my many hours of playtime, I mean, all the footage in this video is me playing the game, by the way. I've never really ran into many negative players, if at all. Maybe I got kicked once or twice randomly, but I would say 99% of players have been great and respectful. But I don't think you foster a good, accepting community by forcing policies onto people all the time. It's like with Stellar Blade as well. I just don't understand what Sony is doing here with all of these moronic decisions. They clearly make great games. I mean, Final Fantasy 16, 7, Rebirth, Stellar Blade, and Helldivers 2 are all games that are intrinsically tied and funded in some way by Sony directly. They know how to make great games, and this frustrates me to no end because I know that Sony is one of the best companies in the world when it comes to actual quality games. I mean, Helldivers 2 is a PlayStation first-party studio release. The game is great because it has that seal of quality that Sony is known for. So it confuses and angers me to no end to see Sony wounding themselves time and again on purpose like this. It's just like the Stellar Blade censorship controversy. I beat that game recently and really liked it a lot, and I think the censorship controversy did nothing but spoil the game's release when it didn't have to. All Sony needs to do with their games is continue to release peak quality products and then take their hands away and then just let people enjoy things. Helldivers 2 could still obviously soar into the sunset of live service godhood and continue to foster and create amazing player numbers. And all Sony has to do, literally, I'm not kidding you, is just let Arrowhead Studios cook and leave them alone. Don't push any nonsense onto it, don't force anything onto players, and just let people play the game. The more crap you put between the player and your product, the worse it's going to be, straight up. And now people are unearthing more about what that Spitzer Helldivers community manager said in the past, and it's not looking good from what I'm seeing. Again, I don't know how these people get hired to fulfill these roles they are clearly not fit to do. Here's some of what this Spitzer person has said previously. Gamers today are so entitled to think that the devs need to do exactly what they want and listen to only their feedback and nobody else's. Or they're a shit company. If you don't like the game, stop playing it. If you don't know if you like the game, don't buy it easy. My brother in Christ, your job is to bring people together. Why are you working as a community manager if you hate the players you've been tasked with fostering? Oh my god, here's some other stuff he said. Rockstar Games is the only company I've seen that can release so much free content and still have such an ungrateful, toxic, childish fan base. Companies like EA and Blizzard get less hate. It's effing baffling. Dude, again, the CM is out here saying things that they should just keep to themselves. You're a community manager, and your first thought is to openly state you think the paying customers are childish, ungrateful, and toxic. Why are these people in these positions? Oh great, it gets worse, he said more too. It's both amazing and embarrassing how many community members I've had to block or mute that come from games I adore. People seem to just love to shit on the games that have given them their communities, fans, and incomes almost as much as they love attacking other fans. So what Spitzer is saying here is that people aren't allowed to be critical of anything, otherwise they're toxic and awful. I think the best thing anyone in a position of power can do, especially if they're a prominent streamer or content creator, is that they need to be honest with the viewers. And if the game they are known for when it comes to their community decides to pull something that is clearly anti-consumer or disrespects the player base, It is not only within that content creator's rights, but they should criticize these things. You can't just blindly follow things and refuse to admit the bad parts because it might cost you some sponsorships or something. You have to be honest about these things. This entire video I've been criticizing Sony PlayStation, yet it's my preferred platform to play on since I was a kid and I still play on the platform. I can be a fan of PlayStation and its many games and titles while still being able to criticize them because I'm a rational human being. And I don't think any company is without faults or moronic business practices, even the ones I like. It would be more disingenuous of me to ignore all of this and just tell people, well, go make a PlayStation account and stop complaining, but it's more than that. Because many don't have access to PSN anyways, and forcing this onto people after this window for refund is clearly well and behind them is anti-consumer. Imagine buying a game you really love. Let's use Stellar Blade here for an easy example, and halfway through the game suddenly it says you need to now buy microtransactions all of a sudden in order to progress. Or you need to now give your email out of nowhere to shift up in order to continue playing. That would be super weird and bizarre. The idea of you selling something to someone and promising them a particular experience, then months later going back to change the product or how you were able to access it after release is bad customer relations 101. It's like when games censor outfits months after release. That is not a good look and that is a breach of trust. And sure, you could say, well, it's the company's product, they can do whatever they want, you don't own it. But in defense of the customer, it's within their right to get a full refund if the thing they bought is being changed after the transferring of payment has already happened. All you're doing by saying you can't and shouldn't criticize companies for moronic business practices is only going to embolden those companies to keep doing the things that they're doing. I obviously love PlayStation. I have 159 platinum trophies as of the making of this video. I've played something like over 600 games on my PSN account so far. I am a die-hard PlayStation fan. I love their games for the most part, but just because I spend money on their products and play there does not mean I have to blindly accept everything and not make my voice heard. If you don't agree with that, then that's how more censorship and future moronic changes happen in the future. You have a voice for a reason. You are able to use it when it comes to speaking your opinion. Even if you don't like what someone has to say, they have a right to say it. I've never advocated to silence others, but I think the best way forward for gaming and any other industry is to have open dialogue. Criticism is paramount to changing things for the better, and it baffles me to see community managers like this Helldivers 2 guy be this tone-deaf and apathetic towards the player experience like this. Thankfully, at least some devs at Arrowhead are being transparent, like this one who said on Discord, first of all, it's Sony's decision, not ours. Secondly, we don't have all the details about region-related issues yet. We're chasing Sony to get more info. You see how easy it is to speak to your consumer base when you're not a hateful community manager like the other guy. This Twinbeard dude just straight up said it wasn't their call and they don't have all the info yet, so this is clearly a Sony thing and Arrowhead didn't want this to begin with. And if Sony were smart, they would revert this change since Sony has been hacked in the past already, and obviously opening up that security risk to PC players is another big reason why people don't want to make PSN accounts, which again, I have criticized Sony about before, as I've had to change my passwords when those things happened and it's annoying. Sony needs to spend less time pushing these moronic practices and focus on making their software safer and then just let the devs cook. I won't give up on Sony because clearly they're capable of making peak quite often. But my god, have they been making some stupid design decisions these past few years. Like the fact Sony has been pursuing a patent that uses biometric data called Harassment Detection Apparatus and Method is insane to me. The patent would allegedly allow Sony to detect if a player is engaging in harassment through their biometric data showing a spike in emotions. So they can see if a player is being harassed based on their heartbeat increasing, for example. This is something being discussed being used via the VR headset or even the controller to some extent. But this is what I mean. This kind of technology is ridiculous, and if this were to become a thing one day, it would lead to the biggest mass exodus possible in gaming. Because imagine you're playing a game, you get killed and you get angry, and then boom, the game just closes itself because your biometric data says that you're in a state of grief or something. Apparently, this would be implemented in the future because most people don't report their harassers when it comes to online games. So this would automate the system and allow Sony to locate griefers within games automatically and take action. This is some cyberpunk dystopia tech. Obviously, it's nowhere near being done or anything, but it's a patent that Sony has just in case. And if this were to become real, I would likely abandon the ecosystem entirely because this is a breach of ethics in every way imaginable. But I'll worry about my heartbeat being tracked in games in maybe 20 years when this tech eventually comes out. But for now, What they're doing with Helldivers 2 will lead to nothing but nonsense in the future, and they need to revert this and then just leave Arrowhead alone. Just let them cook and stop trying to implement all of this nonsense. Just let the devs make their game and then just sit back and reel in the cash. It's really that simple. And to end this video, I want to just show you what the CEO of Arrowhead Studios said regarding all of this. Ouch, right in the review score. Well, I guess it's warranted. Sorry everyone for how this all transpired. I hope we will make it up and regain the trust by providing a continued great game experience. I just want to make great games. And that's really what it's all about. From the CEO himself, it wasn't his call, it was Sony's. Arrowhead is not to blame for this. Do not attack the devs or anything like that. This is all Sony being morons and forcing things on players when they don't have to. In my opinion, we should remain critical and criticize when we can, because that's how things get better. And if Sony wants to fix all of this, they'll revert this change to optional and remove as much as they can in order to get their games to PC players in as little resistance as possible. Nobody wins from this, and Helldivers devs don't deserve this controversy or backlash when they've worked so hard already making such a great game. So criticize Sony, don't harass the developers, and let's not give up on Helldivers 2 so fast. The game is still amazing, and I think, like the Stellar Blade controversy, by refunding the game, you're not hurting Sony, you're just hurting the devs who want to make great games. As always, let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and share the video, and thanks to my patrons for their undying support. Have a wonderful day, take care of yourselves, and go enjoy some games today, and I'll see you in the next one.